This is the last session of the day. And if you are watching these in order, you'll already know that. And if you're not, it doesn't matter. You can watch them in any order. But I am excited to be able to have Jacqueline Richards back again. She has spoken at several of our summits, and I know she's going to be fantastic. Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi, Karen. It's great to be here with you again.
It's great that I can again share your knowledge and your ideas and your practicality with our parents that are watching. So thanks for being back. So
Oh, very welcome.
as you know, we always ask about your theme song. Do you have one? What is your a song that sums up your essence? I can't wait to find out.
I love this question. And the interesting part about it is, and this is so much of about the work that I do, is that I asked some of my friends. I said, guys, I've just been asked this question, and I don't know whether anybody else has gone down this road, but I know that, so much of what's in us we can't see ourselves, and other people can, right? So I put it to a few of the people in my group, and I said, right, what's my theme song? Hit me with your thoughts. And what they came back with, and I loved this because I tend to go onto my Spotify list and just listen to the same stuff over and over again, and I get into a bit of a loop around that. And what they fired to me, and this was the one that really spoke to me, was Golden by Jill Scott. And the I don't know if you've heard it, Karen, but definitely go and look it up. It's a beautiful song, and it's all about freedom, and it's all about, empowerment, and the chorus of it goes, I'm living my life like it's golden. I'm living my life like it's golden. And I'm like, oh my God, that is it, right? That is my intention, to live my life like it's golden, right? Magic. So there you go. That's what I got.
Beautiful. So a new song for you and a song to add to our playlist. Thank you very much. Wonderful. So let's start talking about this topic. We're going to be talking about from protection to empowerment. And I love this idea of being able to empower ourselves and our children. So let's talk about how we as parents are unconsciously rescuing our children.
Yes, I mean it's a great topic, and it's a sticky one for some of us as parents. The idea that we are rescuing our kids. And what I got while I was thinking about this, we could say that we're rescuing them from chores, jobs around the house, maybe cooking, cleaning, helping out. More when we start to dive into this, it's from difficult situations. Yeah, if we're making excuses for them, if we're covering for them, giving into them, which I did a lot of in my earlier years as a parent, lying for them, actually lying for them, negotiating for them, or one of this one especially, stepping in and fighting their battles for them. Yeah. And when you opened this, with what we're talking about here, it's because we don't see our kids as powerful, right? We don't see them as powerful, so we rescue them, which comes from the fact that we don't see ourselves as powerful, right? And of course, it's all of that. It's all of that, whatever version you do as a parent, because we all do it to some degree. Yeah, we've all got a bit of rescue in us as parents. But we rescue our kids from what we believe shouldn't be happening to them. Yeah, or what we wish wasn't happening to them. Because what's happening shouldn't be happening, right? This shouldn't be happening to you. And our kids are, and we're seeing our kids that they're not powerful enough to deal with it, right? Which makes us rescue our kids from the reality of life, right? From pain or discomfort, change, challenge, risk, essentially from their experience is what I really boiled it down to. We rescue them from negativity, from what we define as negative or wrong or bad, and back to this point about stuff that we believe shouldn't be happening. So there's a lot around negative emotions, negative feelings, experiences. And when I thought about some of my own experiences when I rescue, and this is quite an obvious one, when your kid falls over, what do most of us do, right? We freak out, right? Especially if there's blood and when I finally clocked what I was doing there, I stopped because I was really disempowering my kid, when actually most of the time he was fine. Like, he was absolutely fine. It was my reaction that wasn't. Yeah. So it was moments like that. And when I would see my boys fight, yeah, I would intervene. And what I got to it was the reason why I would do it is because it was me that felt uncomfortable. Yeah. And I felt like I had to rescue my little guy because he was the smallest, he was the underdog, like I was being the youngest in my family, right? And what I got from them when I started questioning was that they're actually just sparring, they're just kind of sort of jabbing at each other and sparring. And I thought I created it as something else that needed to be rescued from. And digging even a little bit further, Karen, because this is what I love to do, right? The unconscious part of the rescuing is that we don't realize we're even doing it. Yeah. And the impacts that it has, which are massive. And even more than that, we don't realize why we're doing it. Yeah. Why we're rescuing. And when I really get down into this, it's because we're trying to avoid conflict, trying to bring peace, trying to smooth everything over. And I spent my life doing that before I was, even before I was a parent. People pleasing, yeah. Trying to have our kids like us. And all because our uncomfortability as an adult gets triggered, right? And all of that stuff comes up, which is not even about our kids, right? It's about us. Yeah. So what I got to around this is that we're actually rescuing ourselves by rescuing our children, because we're trying to rescue ourselves out of our own uncomfortability, because we can't sit in the discomfort of what's happening. We can't sit in that place when all the stuff is happening to our kids, and we just have this tendency to want to jump in and fix it for them. And we do that by rescuing, and we resolve the tension that we're feeling, that sticky place of, oh, I've got to do something. And it's at the detriment of their empowerment, and the relationship that we have on them, because they become dependent on that rescuing. Yeah, they absolutely become dependent on it. And the other thing that I found is it results in long-term problems, for the kids, and exhaustion for the parents, because we're taking on all of that stuff that we're rescuing our kids from, right? And we're making it our responsibility. It's all on us. And it's not, right? It's not. So I've got a question that I want to share with you, because this is the question that I started asking myself. Are you parenting only for today? Yeah, to resolve your own tension in the moment, or are you parenting for the future empowerment of your children? Yeah, of parenting towards what you would like for them in their lives as adults. Yeah, and there's so many moments, right? When your kid forgets his lunch, what do you do? Yeah, when they forget their raincoat and it's raining, what do you do? Yeah, and if it's raining, do you always take them to school and rescue them from the weather? Yeah, all of these things, right? And my little guy missed the bus the other day because he was fooling around up the road from the bus stop, right? And the bus went past and he missed it, and the school rang. And what did I do? He waited for the next one. Yeah. Luckily, he's on public buses, not the school bus. But these things might seem like really small, insignificant things now, but what they lead to are huge. Yeah. When we fast forward a few years and our kids are older. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he was telling me about an experience that he had with his father when he was out with his friends, and he got really, really drunk and ended up like passed out in the gutter, teenager. And they rang his dad to come and get him. They said, we can't pick him up. He's too heavy. We can't move him. And his dad came and got him. And he said, if you ever do that again, you're on your own, dude. You're absolutely on your own. And his dad didn't rescue him, so it didn't enable him to continue that behavior, right? And my friend actually shared with me, he said, I reckon my dad saved my life in that moment, because he was going down a path, right? And that's where these little moments can end up leading to when we're just continually rescuing our kids from the reality of what's going on. Yeah, big stuff.
That is golden. Thank you. I was just reflecting, my Miss 20 rang me a couple of weeks ago and said, she had a netball game, but she'd been watching another netball game first, and she got wet because it had started raining. And she rang me and said, "Can you bring me some socks, please? My socks are wet." And I just laughed and went, "Who do you think your mother is?" It's like, I've never rescued them like that before. Why would you
Yeah.
suddenly think I would bring your socks? And she said, "Well, I had
Yeah.
to try. I had to give it a go." She goes, "Don't worry, I'll ring my friend who lives around the road."
Yeah. Yeah. And 10 points for trying
Yeah,
because you got to ask. But yeah, this is what it is, right? This is what it is. Yeah.
So, in what ways then are parents enabling our kids, their kids, in undesirable behavior then?
Yeah, because this is a big one, right? And it goes it's alongside the rescuing, right? Rescuing and enabling. And these were words that I'd never even heard of before, right? I mean, I'd heard of rescuing, like, if someone falls off a boat, you rescue them, but I'd never thought about it in this context, of course, because we don't, right? But we enable our kids to keep repeating undesirable behavior, yeah, and we enable them to do it by rescuing them, as we've been talking about. When you take them their socks, right, or you take them their raincoat, or you take them their whatever. Oh, don't worry, I'll drop everything that I'm doing, and I'll get in the car, and I'll come and bring you the thing. And this is what happens. But we enable them by not calling them out on their behavior, right, and making it really clear that that's not okay. Saying, "I don't like that behavior, dude, and it's going to stop." And then actually following through on it. Yeah, that's a big part. And if we don't, we're enabling our kids to just keep on doing it, right? Repeating the behavior that we don't like, that's not okay with us. And I've worked with parents who let their kids get away with some pretty terrible behavior, I mean, and this is not just not doing jobs around the house or contributing in the home. I mean, stuff that's super common and super disempowering for our kids if they don't learn how to do that and to actually work together in the family. But what I'm really getting at is the way that many parents let their kids treat them, right? The way that they speak to them, the way, I've worked with parents whose kids hit them and swear at them and yell at them and, doing things that are just not okay for them as a parent. And this is what we do, right? We enable our kids to keep doing that. This might be sort of at the extreme end of the spectrum, but there are things that your kid is doing that you don't like, and you keep letting them do it, right? And one of the sort of one-liners that I always use is, don't let your kid do something that makes you not like them. Don't let your kid do something that makes you not like them, because that resentment is going to build up and up and up until, then you just kind of lose it. But the other thing that I wanted to share is, when there is stuff happening that isn't okay for you, what do you do with that? Yeah, what do you do with that? And why is it so important? What are the impacts? Because I know that before I started getting support with my parenting, this was about 8 years ago, and my boy was not going through an easy time in his life. Everything had changed in our world. His parents had separated. We'd moved over from the other side of the world back to New Zealand, and he started wearing his hoodie up, and he started carrying knives around, and he was getting really aggressive, and he was doing things that weren't okay. And I didn't know how to handle it. And that was when I got support with my parenting. Yeah. And because what I realized was that aggression and that behavior that wasn't okay for me was going to continue unless I did something about it. I was enabling it to happen. And I realized I didn't want a 6-foot tall man child living in my house, right? Still behaving in ways that weren't okay with me, because I wasn't able to stop enabling that behavior. And that's why I started looking at my parenting and got help with it, because I was totally at the mercy of my kids' behavior. And I was enabling them to do stuff because of my own stuff, right? That I wasn't aware of. And one of the stories that I always share around this, because I used to let my kids run around like little nutters, like in the supermarket and out in public. when I was with my mum, and she called me on it. Yep, Nanny called me on it. She called me on my behavior, which was about theirs. And I let them do it because I wanted them to be able to express themselves freely, and not because I'd felt so shut down, right, when I was a kid. So you could see where I was coming from, right? But am I empowering them? That's the question. To express themselves and to be aware of how their expression is impacting other people, right? Like their nanny. So, we get trapped in these loops of enabling our kids' behavior when it's not okay with us by not calling them on it. So we've got to call them on their behavior. Yeah. And one of the things that just came as I was sharing that, calling them on their behavior, but making sure it's about their behavior, not about them. Being able to separate the child from the behavior, which is a huge piece. Yeah, it's like, I love you. I don't love your behavior right now, and it's going to stop. Yeah. And it's a big one, because I know many of us grew up feeling like that we were bad, not just our behavior, but that we, there was something bad about us, something wrong with us.
Or I grew up believing that if I wasn't good, my parents wouldn't love me, or if I didn't achieve well, my parents wouldn't love me.
Yep.
And by no fault of their own, but I was only ever praised for achievement, and and doing the jobs, and being obedient. But I hadn't, so just that difference there.
Yeah, totally. And we don't realize, right? We don't realize that it's happening, that those pieces are landing for our kids. But yeah, it's a huge difference to separate the child from the behavior. Yeah, massive.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've said to my children, I really love you, but I don't like you right now.
Yeah.
So
yep.
And husband has had that comment to him too. And I'm sure it comes back the other way, because I'm not perfect either.
Yeah. And it goes back to that piece around that what's happening shouldn't be happening, that that we should always like our kids. I mean, there's plenty of times where I haven't liked them, I mean, I love them, but yeah, absolutely, I love that distinction, because we don't have to like all our kids' behavior, and when we call them on that behavior and tell them that that's not okay with us and that it's going to stop, then we're no longer enabling them to stay in that behavior.
Yeah. Cool.
And it has big impacts. It has really big impacts. Yeah, because if we enable our kids to stay too comfortable where there's no kind of pushback, then they're not going to want to change their behavior. Yeah, because it's too easy not to, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So in what ways might some parents be robbing their kids of independence and agency? I think this is probably very similar.
Yeah, I mean, there's such good words, which again, I didn't really have any understanding of in terms of my parenting, but in terms of independence, we just do too much for them. We do everything for them. Some parents do everything for their kids. And you can see where it comes from. If we were kind of chucked out, to out to the wolves, so to speak, when we were all kids, and we just got on with it, there's reaction to that. And so much of our parenting is either repeating the way our parents did it or reacting strongly to it, right? And I was talking to the supermarket cashier the other day, right? And she still makes her boys lunch. She saw something going through my order and she goes, oh, what's that? Blah, blah, blah. And we ended up having this conversation. She said, oh, I still make boys lunch every day. Every single day. He's 26 years old, Karen. Yeah, 26 years old, right? And when we talk about robbing them of their independence, I know, I was just like, what? By not allowing them, not encouraging them, not making a point of them doing things on their own, right? Even if they fail, because we're robbing them of their independence when we don't allow them to try and do things on their own.
And I also
we don't allow them to fail.
Sorry? I remember when I was about 20, maybe 19, 20, I went home to my parents and stayed with my parents for about 6 to 8 weeks while I had a teaching assignment while I was training at a local school. And I had to travel by car about 20 minutes, and then I'd catch the school bus where the kids caught the bus. It was a very rural town, and about another 20 minutes to the school. So I was on and off the school bus with the kids every day. And every morning, so I left early, every morning my mum would say to me, do you have your lunch? Do you have your hanky? And do you have your lesson plans? Now, I I was 19, 20, I don't know, 21, I might have been slightly older. And she's asking me these questions every single day before I leave the house. And the day she didn't ask me, I forgot my lunch. And this school is so rural, there is no shops near it, there is nothing there. And I starved all day. I was too embarrassed to tell anybody that I'd forgotten my lunch. I was ravenous by the time I got home. And it occurred to me that even as a young adult, she was still disempowering me, I guess, by asking me those questions every single day. And perhaps she'd done that my whole life. I don't actually remember, but I do remember in that time that really clear lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's all about. And it's like, I mean, I've had a similar situation with my kids with shoes or something, and they've written themselves a list. You know, that they have the list, right? They're in the power and power. They have the power to do it. That's their independence, because we actually want to do ourselves out of a job as soon as we can as parents, right? And this is the biggest piece that's really dropped for me, because I got my kids to get themselves to school every day. One went on the bike and one scoots to the bus stop and catches the bus. And I ended up saving myself 2.5 hours a day, from not going and picking them up and having to stop the thing and do that. We want to do ourselves out of a job because that is encouraging them to be independent.
Can I just say, Jacqueline, sorry, I'm interrupting, but can I just say, for the Brazilian parents watching, they are clenching right now, because Brazilian mothers particularly never want their children to leave home. They want them to stay there forever, and often they do. They get married and still stay at home. So for the Brazilian mothers, breathe.
But hang in there.
Yeah, but for us in New Zealand, Australia, in many countries, our goal is to get them out.
Yeah. We want them to be independent. We want them to be empowered. We want them to be sovereign, and all these amazing words, right? And we want, we want to do ourselves, and these different cultures, of course, have these different conditioning and all of it. But if the piece that really struck me while you were just talking then, because when we don't do that, right, when we're hanging on, and when we're not inviting our kids to be more independent, a lot of the time we're not doing that because our value or our worth is measured by how much we do as a parent.
Yes.
Yeah. And what that can mean is that we get involved in everything, right? We're in everything, and we're part of everything, and we can often become very controlling, in our lives as parents. Control them within an inch of their lives is what I call it, without even realizing that we're doing it, because a lot of the time it's the way that our parents parented us. That's where it comes from. I call it the we parent from the past trap, and we've definitely talked about that, Karen. But we don't realize how controlling we can be when our kids end up in a place where they never have a say. They're continually told what to do, and we need to stop telling them what to do all the time. And be able to support them in their choice to do what they want to do. And this is where the agency piece comes in, because that's what agency is, right? So being able to allow our kids to make decisions and have choice that impacts their environment. That's not all just up to us. And the story I always share around this part is around my boy keeping his room clean, because I used to control my kids in everything, keeping their room clean, and then they were just keeping it clean however they wanted, right? And they were tips, absolute tips. And so I put up with tips for a while, And then my boy wanted to find something. And because I was still coming out of my rescuing days, I would go and help him find the thing, right? Mom, I've lost my stapler. All right, come on, we'll go into the tip and we'll, sort through the bits of paper in the laundry and, and find the thing. And then one day he caught me after I'd been doing some yoga or something, and I was in a very zen place. And I looked at him and I said, dude, if you want to keep your room like that, you're on your own. Wow. Right. Supporting him in his choice to keep his room like a tip. Yeah. But what the interesting thing that happened here, and this is all about agency, is that when he couldn't find the stapler, he came back and he said, oh, Mum, I think I'm going to clean my room.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And then it's his choice, not mine.
Mm.
Yeah, huge things around independence there, but around agency. We need to be giving our kids more choice if we're not going to rob them of their agency.
Well, I think we can start this really early as well. I'm just thinking at what you said before, that sometimes what we're doing and that controlling is about our worth, and thinking about another parenting expert who talked once to me about how when women particularly are leaving it later to have children, and so therefore maybe it's not as easy to fall pregnant, so you have to control that whole process by getting help. And you've already been in control of your career for the last 10, maybe 15 years. Now we're controlling our pregnancy, and then once you're pregnant, you control all of that, and then you can even now decide on the date that you're going to have the baby. And do those numbers line up? Are they aligned for whatever purpose you want to have? And then you have the baby, and then you just keep controlling. And so it's very easy to get into that control situation. And so I was thinking about one of the ways I used to give my daughter particularly choice, because she was a no kid. She was like, I don't want to. So okay, it's bath time. She goes, I don't want to, I'm not going to. And I'd say, fine, do you want a bath or a shower? So just a tiny little choice to feel that she's empowered. I actually don't care. She just has to get wet. That's all I need, right?
Yeah.
I need her to get wet, get clean. And it doesn't matter if it's in the bath or the shower. And so how can we give them those tiny choices when they're really young, and then extend it for them to be able to do that?
Yep. And I love what you're saying. And I had exactly the same experience when I first became a mum, because I used to be a corporate architect before I had kids. And I had a team of 10 people working under me. And then I had this screaming pile of baby and poo, and I had no idea what to do with it, because I was, because it's like, you have to put that control down, right? Because you can't control a baby. You can't control the process of birth. And it can be very disorientating, as you say, for women, especially who have left it later. They've had a lot of control over their lives, and how to let that go is a huge part of being a parent. And I love what you said about, giving our kids these choices from really early on, and it can happen really early on. But what I really look at in terms of choice is what I call parent choice, kid choice. And it's about whose choice it is, and how we can let go of a huge number of battles by teaching our kids about choice. And what I mean by that is, it's our kids' choice what clothes they wear, what haircut they have, whether they wear matching socks or not, because I used to try and control that with my kids, how they keep their room, which I've already spoken about. Because if we as parents have choice over everything to do with our kids, we're robbing them of their agency, right? So what I invite parents to do is to find the choices that really matter to you, like really matter, the ones that really matter. Yeah. I mean, does it really matter that your kid has a tip of a bedroom? Yeah. Does it really matter? Yes, it does if there's moldy food in there. So that's the choice that I made. Yeah. You can keep your room how you want, but you don't put food in there. That's my choice. Parent choice, no moldy food in the room. Kid choice, keep your room how you want. And as long as we're not rescuing, they will find their way to most likely keeping their room a different way eventually. But it's just getting really clear on what choices are really important to you. And the reason why we want to do that is because when kids feel like they've got a say, when they feel like they've got agency, when they feel like they've got independence, which is power essentially, right? When they feel like they've got more power in their lives, they're not going to resist you when you ask them to do something, right? They're not going to resist you on the things that you would really like them to do. Time to get in the car, kids, no resistance, because they have power in other areas of their lives, right? They have choice over the other stuff. And we can't empower our kids if we don't let them have any power. Yeah, they need to feel that. And let's face it, everybody wants to feel like they have power in their lives. But a lot of the time we're robbing our kids of that power.
I'm waiting, number one, for Mr. 22 to leave home. But I'm also, parents will be sick of me saying this at the summit. But also, I'm waiting for him to get a girlfriend, because I'm sure his room will have to be tidy. I'm not ready yet. I'm like, okay. But he's not ready to have his room clean. I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's no way. I'm really hoping there's no way he would invite someone else into that room.
Yeah.
And it's his choice.
And
then
it becomes his choice.
Yeah, that's right. And this might be the controlling mother in me, but I remember hearing this years ago, and it's still in my back pocket. If the room is really bad, go and get a rat from the pet store and let it go in their room.
Oh my God, that's genius.
It's sort of like, you can't, what is it? You can't lead a horse to, or you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
That's right.
You can put salt in their food to make it thirsty.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, that's so great. I'm thinking the rat's like the salt. It's like, oh my God, I hate rats, and there's one in my bedroom.
Yeah.
So it's still in my back pocket. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah,
because I don't actually want to have to deal with a rat.
No, exactly. Maybe there's another version of that.
Or maybe I'll get a friend
which doesn't involve a rat.
Happens to like rats. I love that we can have fun in parenting too. I think that's actually really important.
It's imperative.
Yep.
It's imperative. Otherwise it's intense and serious. And I tried it that way, and this way is much more fun. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We have to be light.
So how might we empower ourselves with a different awareness of what it means to love your kids?
Yes, well, just the fact that you did that is exactly what I'm talking about, right? It's like we think we're loving them by protecting them, right? And by rescuing them and by enabling them, and we're not. We're doing the opposite. We're completely disempowering them, and we think we're loving them. Or perhaps we're on the other side of the spectrum and we're controlling them, right? So we might be letting them get away with everything and, rescuing them on that side of the spectrum. And we might be controlling them within an inch of their lives on this side of the spectrum. But we think we're loving them there too, right? Whichever end of the spectrum, we think we're doing it from a place of love, right? Or what we believe love is. And is it really, right? Is that really love to be disempowering our kids in this way? And most of us are, very busy as parents because we are loving our kids in the warm, pretty pink candy floss type of love, and we don't realize that there's another kind, right? The other side of love, which isn't always light and fluffy. Yeah. And this is the side of love that I call a bit shitty and gritty, right? And it's the kind of love where we move beyond protecting our kids from the reality of life. Yeah, by continually rescuing them or protecting them again, enabling them, continuing to stay in undesirable behavior. It's beyond that, right? Where we actually let them feel the consequences of what goes on, right? Feeling the wet feet at the netball courts, and with my kids getting wet on the way home from school, because I haven't taken them a raincoat, just in case it rains and you forgot it, here it is, they get wet. And it's funny, because I'd gotten myself into a little place where I'd become a bit around the weather, and then of course that rubs off onto my kids, because that's what they do, right? They absorb what's going on for us. And so I was like, right, we're flipping that. And my boy got home from school and he was drenched, absolutely soaked. And I was like, whoa, you had a great ride, because it's like he didn't die, right? He got wet,
Didn't
but
melt.
he didn't melt. He didn't become a shell of the former boy that's known as my son. So, when we're in that place, we're not rescuing them from or protecting them from the world, right? We want to empower them to be in the world no matter what's going on, no matter what the weather, no matter, who's in their class or what their teacher is like, so they can hold themselves solid in that. But when we're not resourced to deal with being in conflict or tension or in that uncomfortability, those sticky places in our lives as parents, and let's face it, there's a lot of them, right? When we're not resourced to deal with that and to be able to be in that without having to resolve that. And when we resolve it, that's when the rescuing comes in. That's when, oh no, don't worry, Jimmy, it's all right, I'll go and talk to your teacher, it'll be fine, whatever the situation is. We're not able to sit in that. We're not able to be okay in that and just let it play out, right? And let our kid get the lesson. Yeah. And we don't have the awareness either to empower our kids in a different way. Yeah, because most of us haven't been empowered in that way until now, that is, right? Because Karen's doing summits and there's incredible work out there now for parents. We can sit in Zoom rooms and do trainings and programs, and we can read books, and there's incredible work out there now, which I'm really excited to be part of, which is about empowerment. Right? It's about lifting out of the cycles that we've all been part of and parenting our kids in a really, really different way.
Beautiful. The word acceptance comes to mind when you're talking about that love is about accepting what's going on and accepting it. It's their journey. And this is not only for the children. Actually, when you were talking, I was thinking how my love for my husband is accepting him for who he is and not me trying to make him into someone different. Yeah. And that for myself personally and in my relationship has grown our relationship with me making that different, having that different awareness of what it really means to love somebody and letting them learn their own lessons. So sometimes it's hard as a parent, sometimes it's hard as a wife to be able to do that. So
absolutely. Yeah. And then the next little bit on that, Karen, is when we can accept what's there, we can choose what to focus on. We can choose to focus on the bits about them that are amazing, that are incredible, rather than trying to change the bits that aren't. And that getting all of our attention, because that's a huge part of this very different way of parenting.
Jacqueline, you talked about books. I'm curious, what are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to that's really inspiring you right now?
Yeah, well, it was interesting when I think about that. I'm actually watching a lot of stuff at the moment with my kids, because one of them, especially the big boy, had sort of gotten himself into a place where it's like, oh, why do we have to have all this emotional baggage and all this stuff that's going on? And I said, okay, dude, you've got a choice here. And this is about focus again, right? It's like, yeah, we have this stuff going on in our lives. But, how often are you watching inspirational talks for kids? Yeah. Or, speakers that are just talking some really cool stuff. So I've been watching a lot of Kerwin Ray with my boy. Peter Crone is another guy that I really loved. He calls himself the mind architect, and I just think that's really cool. So anything inspirational that I can get my hands on and watch with my kids, which shifts our focus from what we don't want to be feeling or experiencing to what we do. Yeah. And the other thing that I've been reading a lot of is my book. Because I'm writing it. So that's been getting a lot of my focus and a lot of my attention, and it's coming, which is exciting.
It's so exciting because this has been a labor of love and a lot of passion and knowledge and information being poured into this. So when it's out, we'll let everybody know on the Facebook page. So it'll be exciting. So, all right. So from your heart, Jacqueline, to the parents watching, if there was one main thing you just wanted to leave them with, what is it?
Oh, I think the thing that I would love to leave parents with is that you absolutely can be a different parent. Yeah. If the one that you are now isn't working out for you so well, because that's exactly where I was, right? I was absolutely there. And the thing is that you have to choose it, right? You really have to choose it and really go for it. And it's the best investment you will ever make to empower yourself as a parent, which will naturally empower your kids as you do it. Because let's face it, I think a lot of us, when we first have kids, they're, the little baby, and we can't see past that. But these people are going to be in your lives for the rest of yours. So when I say it's the best investment that you could ever make, to look at your parenting and to really focus on becoming the parent that you would love to be, rather than kind of surviving the one that you currently are. Because there's such incredible work out there. There's such incredible awareness out there now that can support us into a completely different space where we see ourselves as powerful and we see our children in that way as well. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Back to the song Golden.
Golden.
Just golden.
Exactly.
Lots of wonderful ideas and strategies and tips there, Jacqueline. I love the way that you can see the other side of the coin from what a lot of people talk about, and that you're real and that that it's grounded in good stuff. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. It's always a pleasure to have a chat with you, Karen, and we do have a laugh, and we do have fun while we're doing it. And it's so important in our lives as parents to bring that joy in, yeah, and to go for the joy, because it's possible.
Joyful
It's
parenting, all about that. Because I wasn't the
God.
joyful parent, I was the strict parent, and
God.
I'm not laughing.
Yep.
In fact, I think my daughter said one day, "You just don't laugh anymore, Mum." Or maybe it was my son. I don't know who said it, but I'm like, whoa. So yeah, reinventing yourself as a parent, really important. Parents, if you're watching these in order, this is the end of day one. Go and have a big sleep, go and get a rest, go and hug your kids, go and maybe make some notes about what it is that you want to be. Who do you want to be as a parent? Jump over onto the Facebook page. Let's talk about what you've gained from Jacqueline and the other speakers from today. And if you've got more videos to watch, keep going. And we'll be back tomorrow with even more goodness. So I'll see you there.